So my thinking here is that it's really hard to see the dial board and the front of the dial at the same time. And I want to make sure that the dial board is square right up and down in a vertical axis to the dial. So what I'm going to do is, this is all square, so I can put it on like this. Now this is after I get the glue on. I can put it down, make sure that it's square, and make sure the 12 is at the top. Then I can put a square along the edge here, and I can just square everything up. I'm going to use epoxy glue, so I'll be able to just sort of slide it around, and after it's square, put some weight on it, and it hopefully will end up in the right place. Now, as you can see, the back of these dials is very smooth and shiny. So if I want to make sure that the epoxy glue isn't going to let go after a few years, I scuff it up like this. Nobody's going to see it anyway. Then the glue embeds itself in all these little micro grooves. Now these rubber gloves, they're only $6 for 100. So if I remember to put them on, it's sure worthwhile. Because after I'm through smearing this around, I can just peel them off. I can tell it's starting to cure. It's a little bit warm. Okay, now I can get rid of these. Okay, now 12 to the top. I gotta get this right. We don't want anybody to be late for work. You know what? Maybe I better check just to make sure. Aha! It moved. Maybe I better just wait a couple of minutes until I can't slide it around quickly. Then I'll know it's pretty well ready to set. Just making sure that I got it lined up perfectly with that hole. Okay, it's getting very hard to twist now. Well, it still can be moved though. It's got to be about 5 minutes now. I think they call it 5-minute epoxy because you have 5 minutes working time. I used to think it meant that it actually hardened in 5 minutes, but that's not the case. Well, 6 o'clock. Okay, do it again. Well, that whole process actually took about 8 minutes. Thank goodness for time-lapse. Well, I'm almost scared to look here. Well, it's still pretty well centered. It didn't move very much, if any, after I put the weight on there last night. So I've been wondering now, how is a person going to change the batteries on this? If I have this mounted solidly into the case, that means that I have to make a hole in the back here to change the battery. However, you notice that the manufacturers put a little hanger on here. That means that it can hang up. So why not have a little nail here? Just hang it on the inside there, and then I don't need to be drilling any holes here. Then when a person wants to change the battery, you just take it off, turn it over, change the battery. Now these batteries, they run for like 2, 3, maybe 4 years anyway, depending on what kind of battery you use. However, I'm noticing that it doesn't sit flat. It's lower at this end than here. So that means I'm going to have to put little spacers along the bottom here. I'll show you what I mean. You'll notice when I hang it up on a flat wall, it's not straight. the bottom should be out more like this. It turns out that this little piece of scrap wood, I guess I must have used it for stirring something, is just the right thickness. If I put it behind, it's vertical. Now I want to reuse this piece of plastic later, but I'm taking it off now because I want to be able to properly center the dial in the case. And I can do a better job if I don't have the plastic sticking out. Well, that's pretty well right. Okay, I know the hole has to be somewhere on that line. Now, in theory, this should work. Now, if I make the hole right about there, it should be right. Should be right. It's amazing how much guesswork goes on in these projects of mine. Sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm not. Now this is kind of off the subject, but you may be wondering, why did I choose this end to have the dial and not this end when there's a knot right there that's visible? Well, there's a little knot here too, and I'm sort of hoping that this knot will sort of give it character. Now for the pin that's going to go in the back, I'm going to use this little finishing nail. As it turns out, it's pretty much the same size as that drill bit right there. Now, one of the reasons that I bought this particular drill press is because you can tilt the head. I just want to tilt it just a little bit. I really only get one shot at this, so I got to make sure I get it right. Okay, this nail doesn't need to have a sharp point on it, so I'll grind that off and it'll change it from a nail to a pin. Sounds a lot better. Now, because the pin is at such a shallow angle there, there's a chance that this will ride up. So I'm going to have to make a little notch on the pin, and that'll that way it'll just sort of hook into the notch, and it won't ride up. That's the plan anyway. Now I want to make sure it's all the way down into the bottom of that hole I drilled. I think that's about it. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but give it a try. Just have to be careful now not to accidentally rub it off. Well, hopefully that'll work. That's gonna work. That's gonna work real good.